I was walking out of my apartment in downtown Seattle when these two women I'd never seen before called out to me. "Michael, thank God we found you." I stopped, confused. I'm 6'3" and built like I spend too much time at the gym, which I do, but I had no idea who these people were. "I'm sorry, do I know you?" I asked. "Look," the blonde one said, "this is going to sound absolutely insane, but our best friend Jessica is having her engagement party right now, and we desperately need you to pretend to be her boyfriend." I laughed. "What? Why would I?" "Her ex-fiancé Derek is supposed to show up any minute," the brunette interrupted. "He's been stalking her for months." "He's been stalking her for months. Last week he broke into her apartment and trashed the place. The police won't do anything because he's a cop." My stomach dropped. A cop. That explained why the authorities weren't helping. "How do you even know my name?" I asked. "Your gym membership card fell out of your bag yesterday at the coffee shop on Pine Street," the blonde explained. I picked it up, was going to return it, but then this morning Jessica called crying because Derek threatened to crash her little party. "We remembered you from the coffee shop. You look like you could handle yourself." I should have walked away. Should have said sorry and minded my own business. But something about their desperation and the fear in their eyes made me hesitate. "Please," the brunette said. "We're out of options. Derek's shift ends at 2 p.m. and he said he'd be there by 2:30. It's 2:15 now." Against every rational thought in my head, I followed them 3 blocks to a small event hall decorated with silver and blue streamers. The place was full of people who all turned to stare when I walked in. Then I saw her. Jessica was standing by a gift table, wearing a simple black dress, looking exhausted and scared. She was beautiful in that understated way, the kind of woman you notice because of how she carries herself, not because she's trying to get attention. "Everyone," the blonde announced loudly, "this is Michael, Jessica's boyfriend." Jessica's eyes went wide when she saw me, but she caught on quickly. "Hey babe," she said, walking over and giving me a hug that felt surprisingly natural. "Thanks for making it." Her friend pulled me aside. "Derek's been sending videos all morning. He's completely unhinged. Just stand there and look protective until he shows up and hopefully leaves." I positioned myself near Jessica as she greeted guests and opened engagement gifts, presents for an engagement that had been called off months ago, but people apparently hadn't gotten the memo. The whole situation felt surreal. Her phone buzzed constantly. She showed me one of the messages, a video of Derek in his patrol car. "Hope your new boy toy is ready for what's coming," his voice said through the speaker. 20 minutes out. "This is the 8th one today," Jessica whispered to me. "He knows where I live, where I work, everywhere I go." An older woman, probably Jessica's aunt, mentioned quietly to another guest, "Remember when Derek showed up at her work last month? Had to call his sergeant to get him to leave." Jessica's mom approached me around 2:25. "Thank you for doing this," she said quietly. "Last time Derek confronted one of her friends, the friend ended up in the hospital." At exactly 2:30, we heard a car door slam outside. Heavy boots on the steps. The door opened without a knock. Derek walked in like he owned the place. He was maybe 5'10", but built solid, with the kind of confidence that comes from wearing a badge. His eyes scanned the room until they found me. "So you're the replacement," he said, his voice carrying that cop authority. "Interesting choice, Jess." "Derek, you need to leave," Jessica said, stepping slightly behind me. "This is a private party." "Private party for what?" He gestured around the room. "You're not engaged anymore. You made that pretty clear when you threw my ring at me." "Because you hit me," Jessica said, her voice stronger than I expected. "I never hit you," Derek said smoothly. "I restrained you when you got hysterical." "There's a difference." I stepped forward. "She asked you to leave." Derek smiled, but it wasn't friendly. "And you are?" "Someone who's asking you nicely to go." "Nicely." Derek looked around the room at all the phones now pointed at him. "That's cute. You know what I do for a living, right?" "I know what you're supposed to do," I said. "Protect and serve, not harass women." His face changed. The fake friendliness dropped completely. "You have no idea what you're getting into, pal. Jessica and I have history. 2 years together. You think you can just walk in here and play hero?" "I think you should leave before this gets worse for you," I said. Derek laughed. "Worse for me, son? I carry a gun for a living. I know judges, prosecutors, other cops. What do? Work out and drink protein shakes?" "Derek," Jessica's mom said firmly, "you're not welcome here. Please go." "Mrs. Hatchen," Derek said, turning on the charm, "I'm just trying to talk to Jessica. Work things out. That's what people who love each other do." "People who love each other don't break restraining orders," I said. "Restraining order?" Derek's eyes narrowed. "What restraining order? Show me the paperwork." Jessica pulled out her phone, showed him a screenshot. Derek glanced at it and laughed. "That expired last week, sweetie. I made sure of it. My lawyer's very good." The room went quiet. Jessica's face went white. "Even if that's true," I said, "she's asking you to leave. That should be enough." Derek stepped closer to me. "Should be enough for who? You? Some random guy playing pretend boyfriend?" "For any decent human being." "Decent human being." Derek nodded slowly. "You know what's not decent? Lying, pretending to be something you're not. How long have you actually known Jessica? The question hung in the air. I could feel everyone waiting for my answer. Long enough to know she deserves better than someone who threatens her, I said. Derek smiled again. That's not an answer. How long? Jessica stepped forward. Michael, you don't have to. 2 hours, Derek said. That's how long, because I had someone watch this place after I saw the decorations go up. 2 hours ago, these ladies approached a stranger on the street and brought him here, so let's cut the act. My stomach sank. He'd been watching, planning. Doesn't matter how long I've known her, I said. Matters that you're making her afraid. I'm making her afraid? Derek's voice rose. I'm trying to save her from making a mistake with someone who doesn't even know her middle name. Marie, I said without thinking. Derek's face went blank. What? I had no idea where that came from. Just a guess based on her appearance, but it seemed to hit home. Her middle name is Marie, I repeated. And her favorite color is green. Izzy, she's afraid of spiders but loves thunderstorms. She works at the downtown library and volunteers at the animal shelter on weekends. Jessica was staring at me. I was making it all up, but Derek didn't know that. She hates mushrooms on pizza, I continued, and she reads 3 books a week. She wants to travel to Ireland someday, and she's terrified of flying, but would do it anyway because seeing the cliffs of Moher is on her bucket list. I have no idea why I said any of that. Just things that seemed like they might be true about someone like Jessica. How did you? Jessica started, then stopped. Derek looked between us, confused and angry. That doesn't prove anything. It proves I pay attention, I said, which is more than you ever did. Derek took another step forward, close enough that I could smell his cologne. You want to know what I think? I think this is all an act. I think you two planned this to make me look bad. You're making yourself look bad, Jessica said, just like you always do. Always? Derek spun toward her. I gave you everything, Jessica. Everything. I was ready to marry you, have kids with you, build a life. You were ready to control me, Jessica said. There's a difference. Control you? Derek's voice cracked. I protected you. I made sure you were safe. I checked on you because I cared. You followed me because you're obsessed. Derek's face went red. Obsessed? I'm a cop, Jessica. I notice things. I see patterns. I know when someone's lying to me. Then you should notice the pattern of every woman in this room being uncomfortable with you being here, I said. Derek looked around. Every woman in the place was either filming him or moving away from him. Some had moved their kids to the back of the room. This is ridiculous, he said. Jessica, can we please just talk? Alone? 5 minutes. No, Jessica said firmly. 5 minutes to explain why you're throwing away 2 years over some guy you met today. I'm not throwing anything away, Jessica said. I'm protecting myself from someone who scares me. I scare you? Derek's voice broke a little. Jess, I would never hurt you. Never. I love you. You have a funny way of showing it, I said. Derek turned back to me. You know what? You're right. Let me show you how I handle people who interfere with my family. He reached for something on his belt. Not his gun, but handcuffs. Derek, no, Jessica said. Disorderly conduct, Derek said. Public disturbance. I'm sure I can find something that sticks. In front of 20 witnesses filming you? I asked, while you're off duty? At a private party? Derek hesitated. I could see him thinking, calculating. You know what the real problem is here? He said finally. Nobody respects authority anymore. Nobody understands that some people know better. Some people, I said, need to earn respect. Derek stared at me for a long moment. Then he looked around the room one more time. This isn't over, he said to Jessica. We have too much history to just throw away. Yes, it is, Jessica said. It's been over for months. Derek walked toward the door, then stopped. You'll regret this, Jess. Both of you will. He left, but I could hear him outside talking on his phone. Loudly, making sure we could hear. Yeah, it's Derek. I need you to run a plate for me. 20 minutes later, as people were trying to resume the party, Jessica and I walked outside to find my car with all 4 tires slashed. Oh my God, Jessica gasped. I'm so sorry. This is all my fault. Her friends gathered around us in the parking lot. Someone called the police, but we all knew how that would go. Derek was police. 2 hours later, after filing a report that would go nowhere and waiting for a tow truck, Jessica and I sat in a coffee shop down the street. Why did you do it? She asked. Why did you help me? I thought about it. Because you looked scared, and because someone should. You realize this probably isn't over, right? Derek doesn't give up easy. Yeah, I figured. Jessica stirred her coffee, not drinking it. I need to tell you something. Everything you said about me back there, my middle name, the things I like, you were right about all of it. I stared at her. What? My middle name is Marie. I do work at the library. I do want to go to Ireland. She looked up at me. How did you know that? I didn't. I was just guessing. You guessed that I volunteer at an animal shelter? That I'm afraid of flying but want to see the cliffs of Moher anyway? I had no answer for that. It was impossible, but apparently true. Maybe, Jessica said quietly, we were supposed to meet. I wanted to dismiss it as coincidence, but sitting there looking at her, I wasn't so sure. That night, Derek started his campaign in earnest. First, He called my work, claiming I'd been involved in a domestic disturbance. My boss wasn't happy. Then he called my landlord, saying he'd witnessed me damaging property and that I might be a liability. By the end of the week, Derek had called everyone he could find connected to me. My gym, my bank, even my dentist. All with the same story. I was unstable, dangerous, involved with criminals. Jessica was getting it worse. Derek had used police databases to find every detail of her life, then started systematically destroying her reputation. Her work received anonymous tips that she was stealing. Her landlord got calls about noise complaints. Her friends got messages saying she was using drugs. He's trying to isolate me, Jessica explained when we met for coffee. Make it so I have nowhere to go except back to him. We need to document everything, I said. Build a case. Jessica laughed bitterly. Against a cop? With what evidence? He's too smart to leave fingerprints. But Derek made his first mistake the following Tuesday. I was leaving work when he approached me in the parking lot. He was in uniform, on duty, with his patrol car parked right behind my car so I couldn't leave. Michael, he said pleasantly, we need to talk. I don't think that's a good idea. See, that's the thing, Derek said, moving closer. I don't really care what you think is a good idea. Jessica told me you two have been seeing each other. Dates, dinners, the whole romantic comedy routine. What Jessica and I do is none of your business. Everything Jessica does is my business, Derek said. She's confused right now, vulnerable. You're taking advantage of that. I'm not taking advantage of anyone. Derek smiled. Sure you are. Pretty girl, grateful for the rescue, feeling emotional. Easy target for a guy like you. A guy like me? Yeah. Predator. Guy who swoops in when women are weak, pretends to be the hero. I've seen it before. I started to respond, but Derek kept talking. Here's what's going to happen, he said. You're going to stop seeing Jessica, stop taking her calls, disappear from her life completely. And if I don't, Derek's hand moved to his belt, then you're going to have a very difficult time in this city. Traffic stops, parking tickets, maybe some friends pay visits to your work, your family. Things can get very complicated very fast. I pulled out my phone and hit record. You threatening me, officer? Derek's smile faltered when he saw the phone. I'm giving you advice, friendly advice about staying out of situations you don't understand. What I understand is that you're using your badge to intimidate civilians. Derek looked around the parking lot. We were alone, but the conversation was being recorded. You know what? He said. Maybe you're right. Maybe I should handle this differently. He got back in his patrol car and left, but not before writing down my license plate number. Again. That recording was the first piece of real evidence we had, but when Jessica took it to Derek's sergeant, the response was predictable. Officer Thompson was conducting a welfare check, the sergeant explained. He was concerned about a vulnerable woman being taken advantage of by a stranger. A welfare check in a parking lot while he was blocking my friend's car? Jessica asked. Officer Thompson used his discretion to ensure public safety. The complaint was filed and forgotten, but Derek was getting sloppy, angry. 3 days later, he followed Jessica home from work, parking outside her apartment for 4 hours. Her neighbor filmed it from his window. When Jessica called 911, Derek claimed he was conducting surveillance on a suspected drug dealer in the building. Which drug dealer? The responding officer asked. Derek gave a vague description that could have been anyone. Why wasn't this surveillance coordinated with dispatch? Ongoing investigation. Need to maintain operational security. More lies, but they stuck. The pattern continued for weeks. Derek always had an explanation, always stayed just inside the rules, always had backup from other cops who didn't ask too many questions. But he was escalating. Jessica started finding notes under her windshield wipers. Thinking of you. Miss our talks. Hope you're staying safe. None threatening enough to prosecute, but terrifying in context. Then Derek started showing up at her work. The downtown library was public space, so Derek would come in during his patrol and just browse for hours, always where Jessica could see him, always in uniform. He's not breaking any laws, the head librarian told Jessica reluctantly. It's a public library. Police officers are allowed to use our services. He's not using your services, Jessica pointed out. He's intimidating your employees. I'm sorry, Jessica, unless he does something specific. Something specific happened the following Saturday. Jessica was working the weekend shift when Derek came in at opening time. This time, he wasn't in uniform. He was dressed casually like a regular patron. He followed Jessica around the library all morning. When she helped other patrons, he stood nearby listening. When she went to shelve books, he was at the end of the same aisle. Around noon, Jessica went to the break room. Derek followed her back there where there were no cameras. Jessica, he said quietly, we need to talk. Derek, you can't be back here. This is employee only. I just want to understand, he said, stepping closer. What did I do wrong? What did I do that was so terrible you had to replace me with a stranger? Jessica backed against the wall. Derek, please leave. 2 years, Jess. 2 years we built something together. I was going to marry you. I bought a ring. I had plans. You hit me, Derek. That's why I left. I never hit you. Derek said, his voice getting harder. I grabbed your arm to stop you from walking away while we were talking. That's not hitting. You left bruises. You bruise easy. That's not my fault. Jessica tried to move toward the door, but Derek blocked her path. I love you, he said. I know you're scared of commitment, but that's okay. We can work through it. I'm not scared of commitment. I'm scared of you. Derek's face changed. Scared of me? Jessica, I'm a police officer. I protect people. I would never hurt you. You're hurting me right now. I'm talking to you. That's all. Having a conversation. You're trapping me in a room. Derek looked around, seeming to notice for the first time that he was blocking the only exit. I'm not trapping you, he said, but he didn't move. Jessica's coworker, Karen, appeared in the doorway. Jess? Everything okay back here? Derek turned, and in that moment, Jessica slipped past him. Everything's fine, Derek said pleasantly, just saying hello to an old friend. Karen looked between them, clearly sensing the tension. Jessica, they need you at the front desk. Jessica practically ran to the front of the library. Derek followed, but now there were witnesses, other patrons, staff members, people with phones. Derek checked out a book, a romance novel, which felt like another message, and left. But that incident, witnessed by Karen, was finally enough for something to happen. Karen called the police. Not Derek's department, but the county sheriff. When Deputy Martinez arrived to take Jessica's statement, she was sympathetic but realistic. I can see why you're concerned, she said after hearing the story. But technically, Officer Thompson didn't break any laws. The library is public space, and employees can't restrict access to patrons who aren't causing disturbances. He was intimidating me, Jessica said. I believe you, but intimidation is hard to prove. Did he threaten you directly? Use specific threatening language? He blocked me in a room? For how long? Did he touch you? Prevent you from leaving? The questions went on, each one highlighting how careful Derek had been to stay just inside the legal boundaries. Friday, but Deputy Martinez did something Derek's colleagues hadn't. She dug deeper. I'm going to look into Officer Thompson's history, she said, see if there are patterns here. 2 days later, Deputy Martinez called Jessica back. You're not his first, she said. I found 2 other women who filed complaints against Derek in the past 3 years. Similar patterns, stalking, harassment, intimidation. Both complaints were dismissed by his department. Can you contact them? I already did. One moved out of state, wouldn't talk, too scared. But the other one, Amanda Rodriguez, she's willing to meet with you. Amanda told a story that was almost identical to Jessica's. A relationship that started great, became controlling, ended with threats and stalking. The same escalating pattern, the same use of police resources for personal vendettas. I tried to fight it, Amanda said over coffee, but he's a cop. Who was going to believe me? His buddies? His sergeant? Why didn't you leave town? Jessica asked. I did eventually, but I shouldn't have had to. He should have faced consequences. Amanda had documentation. Photos of Derek outside her apartment, recordings of phone calls, copies of police reports that went nowhere. Maybe together, she said, we can make someone listen. The 3 of us, Jessica, Amanda, and I, met with a lawyer who specialized in police misconduct. Margaret Chen, no relation to Jessica's mom, was a small woman with steel in her eyes. Police stalking cases are difficult, she admitted, after reviewing everything. The system protects officers, especially against domestic disputes. But you have something most victims don't have. What's that? Jessica asked. Multiple victims with documented patterns. And Officer Thompson is getting sloppy. He's escalating because his usual methods aren't working. Margaret was right about the escalation. The next week, Derek tried a new approach. He called Jessica's mom, claiming to be conducting a wellness check. I'm concerned about your daughter, he told Mrs. Chen. She's been associating with someone who has a criminal background. For her safety, I think the family should intervene. Jessica's mom had met me by then, liked me, and knew the situation with Derek. But other family members didn't have the full story. Derek called Jessica's aunt, her cousin, her old college roommate, all with the same story. Jessica was in danger, making bad choices, needed family intervention to save her from a dangerous man. Some of them believed him. After all, he was a police officer expressing concern for their loved one. Jessica started getting calls from relatives she hadn't heard from in years, all worried about her new dangerous boyfriend and her mental state. It's character assassination, Margaret explained. Classic abuser tactic. Isolate the victim by turning her support network against her. But Derek made his biggest mistake yet by contacting my family. He called my mother in Portland, identifying himself as a police officer investigating my involvement in domestic violence. I wanted to warn you, he told her, that your son has been inserting himself into a domestic situation here in Seattle. The woman he's involved with has made false accusations against a police officer, and Michael may be in legal jeopardy for aiding and filing false reports. My mother called me immediately, scared and confused. Michael, what's going on? A police officer called saying you're in trouble. Something about false reports and domestic violence? I explained the situation to her, and my mother, a retired social worker who dealt with abusers for 30 years, saw right through Derek's manipulation. "That man is dangerous," she said, "and he just made a big mistake." "What do you mean?" "He called the wrong mother. I'm filing a complaint with the Washington State Police Standards and Training Commission tomorrow. Police officers can't use their authority to harass family members of people they don't like." My mother didn't just file a complaint. She contacted a friend who worked for the state attorney general's office, who connected her with the FBI's public corruption unit. Suddenly, Derek's pattern of abuse wasn't just a local police matter. It was a federal case of civil rights violations under color of law. But before any of that could play out, Derek escalated again. This time, he went after Jessica directly. It was a Thursday evening. Jessica had just finished her shift at the library and was walking to her car in the parking garage when Derek appeared from behind a pillar. He wasn't in uniform. He was dressed in dark clothes like he was trying to be invisible. "Jessica," he said quietly, "we need to finish our conversation." Jessica looked around. The garage was empty except for them. "Derek, leave me alone. Please." "I can't do that," he said. "I can't let you ruin your life like this. The only one ruining my life is you." Derek stepped closer. "No, it's him, Michael. He's using you, Jessica. Can't you see that? He's playing hero so he can get close to you, and when he gets what he wants, he'll disappear." "That's not true. Isn't it? How well do you really know him? What did he do before you met him? Where does he work? Who are his friends?" Jessica realized she didn't know much about my life before that day at the engagement party. We'd been so focused on dealing with Derek that we hadn't had time for normal getting-to-know-you conversations. Derek saw her hesitation. "See? You don't know anything about him, but I know everything about you. I know you're scared of commitment because your father left when you were 12. I know you work extra shifts to pay for your mom's medical bills. I know you cry during sad movies, and you still sleep with the stuffed elephant I won for you at the state fair. How do you..." "Because I pay attention, Jessica. Because I love you. Because I notice things that matter." Derek was close enough now that Jessica could smell his cologne, the same scent that used to comfort her but now made her sick. "I made mistakes," he continued. "I know that. I got jealous, possessive. But that's because I love you so much it scares me. The thought of losing you makes me crazy." "You already lost me, Derek." "No," he said firmly. "I didn't. We hit a rough patch, but couples work through things. That's what love is. Love isn't stalking someone. Love isn't making them afraid. I'm not trying to make you afraid. I'm trying to make you understand." Derek reached out and touched Jessica's arm. She jerked away, but he grabbed her wrist. "Don't pull away from me," he said, his voice changing. "I'm trying to be nice here. Let go of me. Not until you listen. Really listen." Derek's grip tightened. "I'm a good man, Jessica. I protect people. I serve my community. I would die for you. What more do you want?" "I want you to let me go." "I can't do that. I can't let you throw away the best thing that ever happened to you for some random guy who doesn't even know you." Jessica tried to pull free, but Derek was stronger. His police training had taught him how to control people without leaving marks. "You're hurting me," Jessica said. "I'm not hurting you. I'm holding on to you. There's a difference." That's when I arrived. I'd gotten worried when Jessica didn't answer her phone and decided to pick her up from work. I found them in the parking garage, Derek holding Jessica's wrist while she tried to get away. "Let her go," I said. Derek looked up, not releasing Jessica. "This is a private conversation. Doesn't look private to me. Jessica and I are working things out. Why don't you go home?" "Jessica, are you okay?" I asked. "He won't let me go," she said. Derek looked between us, calculating. He was off duty, out of uniform, in a parking garage with no witnesses. If this became a he said, she said situation, his word as a police officer would carry more weight. But I was recording everything on my phone. "Officer Thompson," I said loudly, making sure his name was captured on the recording. "Please release Jessica and step away." Derek saw the phone and realized his situation had changed. Slowly, he let go of Jessica's wrist. "There," he said. "Happy? I wasn't hurting her." Jessica stepped back, rubbing her wrist where red marks were already forming. "This is harassment," I said, still filming. "Stalking. Assault. This is a conversation between adults," Derek replied, "and you're interfering with it. The lady asked you to let her go. You refused. That's assault." Derek's face was red now. "You want to know what assault is? Assault is what happens to people who stick their noses where they don't belong." "Is that a threat, Officer Thompson?" "It's a promise." Derek walked away but stopped at the garage entrance. "This isn't over, Jessica," he called back. "It'll never be over." That recording showing Derek grabbing Jessica and refusing to let go finally gave us something concrete. Margaret filed assault charges the next morning. The prosecutor, who'd been reluctant to pursue a case against a police officer, couldn't ignore video evidence of Derek physically restraining Jessica against her will. Derek was arrested at work in front of his fellow officers. He was suspended pending investigation, which meant he couldn't use police resources for his personal vendettas anymore. But it also made him more desperate. Without his badge to hide behind, Derek became reckless. He started showing up everywhere Jessica went. The grocery store, the library, her favorite coffee shop, always watching, always nearby, but never close enough to violate the restraining order the court had finally issued. He created fake social media accounts to contact Jessica's friends and family, spreading lies about her mental health and our relationship. He called in false tips about me, claiming I was dealing drugs or planning violence. Police showed up at my apartment twice in 1 week for wellness checks that were really harassment by proxy. Derek was unraveling, and that made him more dangerous than ever. The breaking point came 3 weeks later. Jessica was at home on a Saturday night when she heard glass breaking in her kitchen. She called 911, but before anyone could respond, Derek walked into her living room. He'd broken the window to get in, cutting his hand in the process. There was blood on his clothes and a wild look in his eyes. "We need to talk," he said. Jessica was on the phone with 911, but Derek knocked it out of her hands. "Now," he said. "Derek, you're bleeding. You need help." "I need you to listen to me," he said. "Really listen this time." Derek sat down on Jessica's couch like he belonged there, bleeding on her furniture. "I've lost everything because of you," he said. "My job, my reputation, my friends, everything. You lost those things because of your choices, not because of me." "My choices?" Derek laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. "My choice to love you? My choice to fight for us? Those were the right choices. Breaking into my apartment isn't the right choice. You wouldn't see me any other way. You changed your number, moved apartments, got your friends to block me. What was I supposed to do? Leave me alone. I can't do that. Jessica, I love you too much." Derek stood up, still bleeding, and started pacing around Jessica's living room. "Do you know what my life has been like since you left? Do you have any idea what you've done to me?" "Derek, please. I wake up every morning thinking about you. I go to bed every night wondering if you're okay, if you're safe, if that guy is treating you right. It's driving me insane. That's not healthy, Derek. That's not love. Don't tell me what love is." Derek snapped. "I've loved you longer than anyone. I know you better than anyone. I've sacrificed everything for you. I never asked you to sacrifice anything. You didn't have to ask. That's what love is. Sacrifice. Putting someone else's needs before your own." Derek stopped pacing and looked directly at Jessica. "I'm giving you one last chance," he said. "Come with me. Right now. We'll leave Seattle, start over somewhere new. Just us." "I can't do that." "You mean you won't?" "I mean, I don't love you anymore, Derek. What we had is over." Derek stared at her for a long moment. Then his face crumpled. "You don't mean that," he said. "You can't mean that." "I do mean it. Because of him. Because of Michael. Because of you, Derek. Because you scared me. Because you hurt me. Because you can't accept that I made a choice." Derek's sadness turned to anger so quickly it was frightening. "Fine," he said. "Fine. If I can't have you, then no one can." He pulled out a knife. Jessica screamed and ran toward the front door, but Derek was faster. He grabbed her arm and pulled her back. "I didn't want it to be like this," he said. "You made me do this." That's when the police finally arrived. They'd been delayed by a false alarm across town, probably called in by one of Derek's friends to buy him time. When they broke down Jessica's door, they found Derek holding a knife to Jessica's throat. "Drop the weapon," the lead officer shouted. "This is between me and my fiancée," Derek said. "Just give us some space to work this out." "Sir, drop the knife and step away from the woman." "She's not just some woman," Derek said, pressing the knife closer to Jessica's neck. "This is Jessica, my Jessica. We're working through some relationship issues." "Derek Thompson," the officer said, recognizing him. "I know you, man. You're one of us. Let's talk about this." "There's nothing to talk about," Derek said. "Everyone turned against me. My own department, my friends, even my family. All because I loved someone too much." Jessica was crying silently, trying not to move. "Derek," the officer said gently, "this isn't you, man. You're a good cop. You help people. You don't hurt them." "I'm not hurting her," Derek said. "I'm saving her. From him. From herself. From making the biggest mistake of her life." More officers had arrived. I could hear them outside, setting up a perimeter. "What mistake is that, Derek?" the officer asked, trying to keep him talking. "Choosing him over me. Some random guy over someone who's loved her for 2 years. Someone who knows everything about her, who would do anything for her. If you love her, you'll let her go." Derek laughed, and Jessica flinched at the sound. "Let her go so she can run back to him? So she can pretend none of this happened? So everyone can forget about Derek Thompson and move on with their lives?" "Derek, you're bleeding pretty badly there," the officer observed. "You need medical attention." Derek looked down at his cut hand, seeming to notice the blood for the first time. "Doesn't matter," he said. "Nothing matters anymore." "Jessica matters," the officer said. "You said you love her. Prove it. Let her go." "I can't," Derek said, and his voice broke. "If I let her go, she'll leave. She'll disappear and I'll never see her again." "Maybe that's what she wants." "What she wants is wrong." "She's confused, scared. She doesn't know what's good for her. Seems like she knows pretty clearly what she doesn't want." Derek's grip on the knife tightened. "You don't understand. None of you understand. We had something special, real. You don't just throw that away. Sometimes you have to let go of things you love." No, Derek said firmly. No, you fight for them. You fight for love. You don't give up. This isn't fighting for love, Derek. This is forcing it. I'm not forcing anything. I'm just trying to make her remember. Remember what we had, what we could have again. The negotiation went on for 45 minutes, Derek alternating between pleading and threatening the officers trying to talk him down. Finally, Derek seemed to realize his situation was hopeless. You know what? He said. You're right. I should let her go. He loosened his grip on Jessica and she started to move away. Then Derek grabbed her again, this time pressing the knife to his own throat. But if I can't have her, he said, I don't want to live. Derek, no, Jessica said. Please don't do this. Why not? What do I have left? No job, no reputation, no future. You were my future, Jessica. You were everything. You can get help, Jessica said. You can get better. I don't want to get better. I want you. The officers were calling for medical support, mental health crisis counselors, anyone who might be able to reach Derek. But Derek was beyond reasoning with. I want you to know, he said to Jessica, that everything I did was because I loved you. Everything. I know, Jessica said, crying. I know you thought you loved me. I didn't think it. I did love you. I do love you. Then please don't hurt yourself. Please. Derek looked at her for a long moment. You really don't love me anymore? No, Jessica whispered. I'm sorry, but no. Derek nodded slowly. Then there's nothing left. He moved the knife toward his throat, but one of the officers tackled him from behind. Derek went down hard, the knife flying across the room. It took 3 officers to subdue him. He fought them, screaming Jessica's name, reaching for her even as they handcuffed him. This isn't over, he kept saying as they dragged him out. This will never be over. Jessica collapsed as soon as Derek was gone, sobbing with relief and trauma. The paramedics checked her for injuries. Minor cuts on her neck where the knife had pressed against her skin, bruises on her arms where Derek had grabbed her. I arrived just as they were loading Derek into an ambulance. He was conscious, ranting about police corruption and how everyone had betrayed him. He saw me through the ambulance window and started struggling against his restraints again. This is your fault, he screamed at me. All of it. You destroyed everything. The paramedics sedated him before closing the doors. Derek was charged with breaking and entering, assault with a deadly weapon, kidnapping, and making terrorist threats. His bail was set at $500,000, which his family couldn't afford. For the first time in months, Derek was truly locked up. But even from jail, he wasn't done. He called Jessica collect every day until she changed her number. He wrote letters that the jail had to screen for threats. He had friends on the outside drive by her apartment, her work, just to let her know he was still watching. The trial took 8 months to get to court. Derek's lawyer tried every defense possible. PTSD from his police work, mental health issues, claims that Jessica had been leading him on. Amanda Rodriguez flew back to testify about her experiences with Derek. 2 other women came forward during the trial with similar stories. The pattern was clear. Derek Thompson was a serial abuser who used his badge to terrorize women. Jessica had to testify about everything, their relationship, the stalking, the night he broke into her apartment. She was on the stand for 2 days, with Derek staring at her the entire time. During cross-examination, Derek's lawyer tried to paint Jessica as unstable, vindictive, a woman who'd falsely accused a good police officer because she was angry about their breakup. Isn't it true, Miss Chen, that you were engaged to my client for 6 months before you suddenly broke it off? Yes, we were engaged. And isn't it true that the reason you broke up had nothing to do with abuse, but because you'd been seeing another man behind my client's back? No, that's not true. So you expect this jury to believe that you ended a 6-month engagement because of one argument? It wasn't one argument. It was a pattern of control and abuse that culminated in him hitting me. You claim he hit you, but you never sought medical attention, never filed a police report until months later. Why is that? Because I was scared. Because he was a police officer. Because I didn't think anyone would believe me. The lawyer hammered at Jessica for hours, trying to break her story. But Jessica held firm. When it was Derek's turn to testify, he tried to present himself as the victim. I loved Jessica more than life itself, he said. I would have done anything for her. When she left, it broke me. I made some poor decisions, but they came from a place of love, not malice. Did you break into Miss Chen's apartment on the night in question? I was worried about her. She hadn't been answering her phone. I thought something might be wrong. So you broke her window? I knocked first. When she didn't answer, I got scared. I thought she might be hurt. And the knife? I cut myself on the window. I was bleeding, disoriented. I wasn't thinking clearly. Derek's testimony was smooth, practiced. If you didn't know the full story, you might have believed him. But the jury had heard from multiple victims. They'd seen the recordings, the photos, the documentation of months of stalking. They deliberated for 6 hours before returning with guilty verdicts on all charges. Derek showed no emotion as the verdicts were read. He just stared at Jessica, that same calm smile from the coffee shop. At sentencing, Jessica was allowed to give a victim impact statement. Derek Thompson stole a year of my life, she said. He made me afraid to leave my house, afraid to go to work, afraid to trust anyone. He used his position as a police officer to terrorize me and other women, knowing that the system would protect him. She looked directly at Derek. You say you loved me, but love doesn't look like this. Love doesn't control, doesn't threaten, doesn't stalk. What you felt wasn't love. It was possession. Derek was sentenced to 12 years in prison. With good behavior, he'd be eligible for parole in 8. As they led him away, Derek looked back at Jessica one more time. I'll wait for you, he said quietly. I'll always wait for you. Jessica and I were married 6 months later. Small ceremony, mostly family and the friends who'd stood by us through everything. Amanda Rodriguez was there, along with the women from the engagement party who'd started this whole thing. We honeymooned in Ireland. Jessica finally got to see the cliffs of Moher, and she wasn't too scared to fly after everything we'd been through. Derek writes letters from prison sometimes. We don't open them, but his name on the return address is enough to remind us that some people never let go. Jessica still checks locks twice and keeps pepper spray in her purse. I still tense up when I see police cars, wondering if they're friends of Derek's. But we built something beautiful from something terrible. We have a life together now. A real one, not based on pretending or crisis or fear. Sometimes I think about that day when 2 strangers called my name on the street, asking me to pretend to be someone I wasn't. I said yes because they looked desperate, because someone needed help, because it seemed like the right thing to do. I had no idea that saying yes would change everything, would lead to love, to marriage, to a life I never could have planned. But I'd make the same choice again, every time. Because sometimes the best things in life come from the most unexpected places. Sometimes strangers become family, sometimes a lie becomes the truth, and sometimes when someone asks for help, you just have to say yes. Update 1. 6 months later, Derek's first parole hearing is coming up next year. Jessica and I will be there to oppose it, along with Amanda and the other women he hurt. The prison counselor says Derek has been a model prisoner, participating in anger management and therapy programs. But according to his cellmate's girlfriend, who contacted us through Amanda, Derek spends most of his time planning what he'll do when he gets out, talking about setting things right and reclaiming what's his. Some people never change. They just get better at hiding what they really are. Update 2, 2 years later, Jessica is pregnant. We're having a daughter. When Derek finds out, and he will, somehow, it's going to start everything all over again. We're already making plans to move before the baby is born. New city, new jobs, new life. It shouldn't be necessary, but with someone like Derek, you can never be too careful. The system failed to protect Jessica before. We can't trust it to protect our daughter. Update 3, 4 years later. Our daughter Emma is 2 years old now. We live in Portland, close to my family, far from Seattle and Derek Thompson. Derek was denied parole last year. He'll be eligible again in 2027. Emma doesn't know any of this story yet. To her, daddy is just daddy and mommy is just mommy, and they love each other and live in a safe house with a big yard and a dog named Charlie. Someday, we'll have to tell her about the bad man who hurt mommy, about why we live so far from where we met, about why mommy sometimes gets scared when strangers knock on the door, but not yet. For now, she gets to be a little girl who believes the world is safe and good and full of people who love her. That's worth everything we went through. That's worth the fear, the running, the constant looking over our shoulders. Some families are born, others are forged in fire. Ours was forged in fire, but it came out stronger. Final update, 8 years later. Derek Thompson died in prison last month. Heart attack during a fight with another inmate. He was 34 years old. I should feel relief, but mostly I feel empty. 8 years of our lives defined by one man's obsession, and now he's just gone. Jessica cried when we got the news. Not from sadness, but from relief so overwhelming it felt like grief. It's really over, she kept saying. It's really finally over. Emma is 6 now. She knows some of the story, that mommy had a bad friend before she met daddy, and that's why we live in Portland instead of Seattle. She accepts it the way kids accept most things about their parents' past, as just another fact about the world. We're thinking about having another baby. Jessica wants to name him David, after her grandfather. I want to name him anything except Derek. The women who saved us that day, Lauren and Samantha, are still friends. They visit every Christmas, and we always tell the story of how we met. Emma loves that story about how two strangers asked Daddy to help Mommy and how they fell in love. She doesn't know about the dark parts yet. Someday she will, but for now it's just a story about brave people helping each other. And maybe that's the most important part anyway, the part about saying yes when someone needs help. The part about strangers becoming family. The part about love growing in the most impossible circumstances. Derek Thompson is gone, but the good things he accidentally created, our marriage, our family, our life together, those things remain. In the end, that's his real legacy. Not the fear and pain he caused, but the love and strength he brought out in the people who survived him. Sometimes the worst people in our lives teach us the most about what really matters. Sometimes evil plants the seeds of its own defeat. Sometimes love wins, even when it doesn't feel like winning. Sometimes that's enough.